You don't need another financial tip. You need a plan. Because most people don't stay stagnant because they don't know what to do. They stay stagnant because they never execute. Hey, Flourish family. Welcome back to another episode of the Financial Flourish podcast, where we're learning how to flourish in our finances and rise in freedom. I'm your host, Michele Pemberton, and I am so excited that you're here today. Over the past few episodes, we've had some real conversations. I've talked about the cost of being the responsible one. I walked through what to keep, change, and release, and I gave you clear information on the order of getting your finances on track. There were cash stability, princess cushion, aka emergency cushion, paying down high interest debt, security building, and wealth building. But today I'm answering one important question I know you have. Now what? Because knowing the order is one thing, executing it is another. One of the biggest reasons people struggle financially is not because they don't have information, it's because they don't have structure. So, in this mini series, I'm breaking down the 3 step framework I use to help people transform their financial lives: clarity, alignment, and movement. Because when you follow the right process, the results become predictable. Clarity reveals, alignment corrects, and movement builds. I want you to do something for me. Stop and think for a moment. If you have a friend or a family member who has great ideas, but for some reason they do not execute those ideas. I know people like that. And I wonder, why this is so. And I normally say that they cannot finish the job. They have the right ideas, but somehow they cannot execute. Now, I don't know if you answered yes, that you know people like that. Maybe you do. But guess what? If you have a plan for your finances and each year you say, this is the year I'm going to get my finances in order, but you haven't done that yet, you're one of those people. But not to worry, you can fix that problem by the end of this mini series. Today, we're going to look at the first of 3 steps. And the first one is clarity. Yes, what you need is clarity. So before we get deep into clarity, I want to give you a simple way to think about clarity. Because it's not just about looking at your numbers, it's about understanding your financial life in a way that actually leads to change. And so clarity comes down to 3 things: truth, focus, direction. So you need truth, focus, direction. And I like to call this the clarity triangle. Truth is where you actually are, focus is what matters most right now, and direction is where you're going. When you have clarity around these 3 things, then your decisions become easier, they become faster, and they become more confident. So, first, we're going to look at clarity of reality. This is where you face it fully, you're not selective. Because in order for you to be clear, then you have to be honest. Not the version of your finances you hope is true, but what actually exists. If your finances live in your head, it would always seem heavier. Most people don't lack information, they lack full visibility. They look at their income, maybe their bills, but they avoid their total debt, they avoid irregular spending, and definitely avoid financial leaks. And what happens then is that you have partial clarity, and partial clarity creates false confidence. So, in order to help us with our clarity journey, there are 3 questions that you're going to answer. The first one is, what is my true monthly income average? Not your best month, but your true month. What is my actual monthly spending average, including irregulars? If you answer those two questions honestly, then the third question is easy to answer. What is my net position each month? Surplus versus deficit. And just a note for you to remember, you cannot make powerful decisions from incomplete data. So it does not help you to just look at some information and not the others. It's not okay to be okay with paying your bills, but you don't know what your total debt is because that's going to help you. It's not okay for you to know what your fixed cost is, but not what your irregular spending are because we have irregular spending all the time. And for some of you, this might be the moment where you're realizing, I don't actually know my numbers like I thought I did. And if that's you, I want you to hear this. You're not alone. Most people have never been taught how to truly get clear on their finances in a way that's simple and sustainable. And that's exactly why I created my budget reset. It's a program that's designed to walk you step by step through your numbers, your income, your expenses, your patterns, so that you can finally see what's really going on without feeling overwhelmed. So if you're listening to this and thinking, I need help with this part, that's exactly what it's there for. But whether or not you do that, this next part is just as important. And part two is focus. What matters right now? And in looking at focus, the first thing we're going to look at is clarity of priorities. So you have to set priorities because when everything is a priority, then nothing is a priority. And you've seen that in your own life because I've seen that in my life. So clarity forces you to choose a season. You have to choose. You really can do many things, but you can't do all of them at the same time with the same intensity because then what happens is that you get exhausted and you stop doing anything. And so the reason why a lot of people fail is because that they don't understand order. But in order for you to have financial progress, you must have order. You can save aggressively, pay off debt right away, invest heavily. You can't do that all at the same time with the same intensity. So you have to choose what you're going to do when. And so that's the order that's important. Now, in order to help with this, there are three questions that you can ask yourself. The first one is, what is costing me the most right now? And look at your finances and see what's costing you. It might be your high interest debt that's costing you, that interest that's eating up your wealth. And that can be what's going on right now with you. The second question is, what is putting me at risk? And that could be lack of an emergency fund because every time something happens, then you have to fall back on either borrowing from someone or using your high interest debt that you're not able to pay off right away. And so that putting your finances at risk. Or you can ask the next question, what is slowing my progress? And that could be inconsistent behavior, your inconsistent habits that you have. You don't save regularly, you don't save consistently, you don't pay your bills consistently. And so all these things can actually slow down your financial progress. So ask yourself these questions and try to, write it out, be honest with yourself and see what's really going on. So clarity is not just knowing your options, but it's knowing your order to make sure that you have it in order. And then as you're focusing, look at your behavior or your patterns. That would be clarity of behavior. What are you doing over what you intend to do? Your financial life is not built on your intentions, it's built on your patterns. And if you've listened to the podcast, you know that I like this quote that says, the way to hell is paved with good intentions. So it's not what you intend to do, but what you're actually doing. And to help you in this area, look at your top three spending categories. What are they? And that would give you an idea of what's actually going on in your life. What about your three emotional triggers? What's causing you to spend? We've dealt a lot with emotional spending in previous episodes with our psychiatrist. So go back and listen to those episodes. And then the last thing that you can look at is your top three silent habits. What are these recurring habits? What are the things that you keep doing that's actually derailing your financial plan? Is it those daily convenience spending that you do, or is it your I deserve it purchases? You buy something because you deserve it, even when you can't afford it. So those are some things that you have to look at. And then remember that your patterns are producing your current results. Whatever is going on, whatever you're doing, that's why you're having the results that you're having, whether or not you like them. In terms of your focus, still at focus, you also need to look at the clarity of capacity, your financial boundaries. Most people are financially stretched, but it's not because of their income, but it's because they don't have any boundaries. And so they find themselves in problems because, yes, you might be making enough, but you're lending it out to people who are not good with their own finances and you don't have the capacity to deal with it. As we talk about capacity, we have three types that we're going to look at: your financial capacity, so that's what you can afford; your emotional capacity, which is what you can sustain without stress; and then your mental capacity, which is what you can manage consistently. And so it's very important to look at not only your financial capacity, because you might be able to afford it financially, but you might not be able to deal with it emotionally or mentally. And so it's very important to look at those three together and not just what you have in your bank account. And some of these might be, helping family members beyond your means. You might be able to help them financially, but emotionally and mentally, you don't have the capacity to help them. Or maintaining a lifestyle you're tired of funding because, you're trying to keep up appearances, or you're managing too many financial responsibilities. And this will actually derail your financial plan because you don't have enough capacity and enough boundaries to make sure that you are doing what you're supposed to do. Now, once you have clarity, then you're going to see where you're overextending yourself. And I invite you to go back to listen to episode 29. That's the cost of being the responsible one. And if you are the responsible one, or maybe you don't consider yourself the responsible one, but some of those same patterns, some of those same behaviors are present in your life, and that would definitely help you. So we've dealt with part one, which is truth, part two, which is focus. And so now we're going to look at direction, clarity of direction, and what this is to define a destination. And I think all of us can relate to this, maybe not in our finances, but in our life, because we all use a GPS, right? If we need to get somewhere, we use a GPS. So, what's the first thing you do when you use a GPS? You have to put the destination in. Because if you don't put the destination in, then you'll be driving around town all day, right? So, when it comes to our finances, you say, I want to be financially free, or I want to save more, or I want to get out of debt. Now, those are intentions, they're not directions because there's no destination, right? So, let's see what you can do to fix this. Instead of saying, I want to save more, you're going to say, I want $10,000 in savings within 12 months. Now, that's very specific. That's a destination, and also say how long it's going to take you. And then instead of saying, I want to be better with my money, you say, I want to stop living paycheck to paycheck within 6 months. That's very specific as well. Now, remember that vague goals create vague results. So, if you want actual results and something that you can actually measure, then you have to be very specific. And once you have clarity of direction, then it removes decision fatigue because you already know what matters, you already know where you want to be. So, ladies, those are the three prongs of the clarity triangle. Clarity will disrupt you before it delivers you. It will challenge your habits, it will expose your patterns, it will confront your choices. But once you get clear, then you stop guessing, you stop reacting, and you start to lead your financial life with intention. And that's what's important. So now you're clear with your finances. You're probably seeing things that you did not see before and things you probably don't want to see. Maybe it's your spending, maybe it's your priorities, maybe it's the gap between what you say you want and what your life actually reflects. The truth is, clarity will reveal it, but it won't fix it. So the next step is where real change begins. It's not about just knowing, it's about aligning your decisions, your habits, your lifestyle with what you know is true. So, in the next episode, we're going to talk about alignment, how to close the gap between where you are and how you're actually living. Because clarity shows you the problem, but alignment is what starts to change your life. Now, if this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who needs clarity in their finances. And if you don't want to do this alone, I've created something that you can use to help you walk through it. Clarity reveals, alignment corrects, movement builds. I invite you to share your thoughts with me. I would love to hear from you. Connect with me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, Financial Flourish, and on Instagram @_Financial Flourish. You can also check out my website at absoluteaccountingcpa.com/financial flourish. And I really look forward to hearing from you. Now, as you take one more step towards your financial goal, don't forget to flourish.